we've tapped till we've got it on there. Like I said, don't get carried away. Don't beat the piss out of this. You do not want to hurt anything. But listen to the difference in sound. Hear it solid. That right there is when you get to the point of hear it. It's solid. It's back. It's back all the way. And that's also the point. If you keep beating on it and you get to that point, that's when you'll start damaging stuff. That's when you're exerting shock straight through the bearings of the engine. As long as it's not really at one with this crank, it's dead in something. But like I said, you'd be surprised how much crazy force you get on that anyhow. Just in day-to-day activities. This new chain, okay? This new chain comes with a slickum on it. Do you think that's enough? Negatory. What are we going to do with it? Motor oil is an option. Another is to grease it. Well, which one would you want to do? Which one do you think? Come on, somebody tell me. What we're going to do with this is we're going to grease the chain. We're not going to grease the sprockets, okay? We're just going to grease the chain. We'll put a little on the sprockets, but we're not going to get carried away. What we're going to do is we're going to grease the chain before we put it together, which is a nasty, dirty operation, might I add. Get us a slop in the grease here. Beat the chain off everything. Dunk it in the dirt, that would be good on it. We're going to grease this chain. You know, grease is compatible with motor oil, okay? So is engine assembly lube. But like I said, we're not out to we're not rebuilding this engine completely. The only thing we're doing is just changing the timing chain. So we're gonna grease this, okay? Is that overkill? You're damn right. Why am I not using engine oil, you're asking? Even though I could use engine oil, and the reason I don't want to use engine oil is simple. I've got to put this cover back on, okay? And I don't want the oil running down the front of the block, between my gasket surfaces, etc. That's why. Is that clean? No. Is that clean? It better be. It's the inside of the damn engine. We're going to just go around this and just put a little grease on it, but you can't see me doing it, but it don't matter. We're just greasing. We're just going to put a little grease on there. There you go. Just axle grease, whatever. It's just something to create some lubrication until it fires up and it actually starts getting its own oil feed, which it will, which is sling oiling pretty much, but it gets it. And it gets it real quick. Like, clean my hands off here. They are, boy, are they greasy. Hoo-wee. Of course, we've only been playing with pure-fledged axle grease. What do you expect, right? Alright. They're going to get worse when I put this together anyhow. I don't know why I'm bothering to clean them. It's a little easier to hold on to this crap, though. Stick that in the engine. Good place for it. Let's see. Chain. See if this one is actually marked. Yep. I'd never have heard or seen of a correct way that this is supposed to go. I always put the writing out. Every original engine I've ever tore down, the writing has always been out on the chain. I really don't think it matters, but that's how I've always put them back. So this right here is the most aggravating part for two reasons. One, where in the heck's my dot? There's my dot. It's coated in grease. I know where my top dot is. There we go. Wipe that off. So we've got to get this in that chain all ready to go. There's two ways of actually doing this, and the easiest way is not the way I'm doing it. I don't know why I'm doing it that way. The easiest way is to hang this thing like this and put it together. And slap that on there and put that together. And as you can tell, we got a little problem there. There we go. Get that straight. And then slip it on. Are we lined up? I think we actually did it the first try. Clean our dots off and take a look. There. Are we lined up? Not exactly. We are off maybe a tooth. I don't know, maybe it's in the slack of the chain because the slack's even. So if that's the case, I think it is. But I don't particularly want to pull this back apart because I don't think a tooth would create that much of a or create that little of a difference. There's one tooth further. It makes it too much. Let's take it one tooth back, which should have been where we were. Yeah. And we take it, and if we take it one tooth further back, I think that's two. Let's try it again. I mean, when you're dealing with a war timing chain, you've got to be careful when you put it back together. There we go, slip it one tooth right there. See, that's way off, so it was right. I had it dead on the first time. But it's always a good idea to check. Right there it is, boom. And, you know, I can crank the cam, and twist the cam around. I'll do that when I tighten the bolts up, and you'll see it come right in. It'll come right in and line up the dots because you've got a slack side and a tight side. So it's close enough. It's more in time now than it ever was. Let's put it that way. Put the bolts in. Don't drop them down in your engine like I about did. Greasy hands. Be time to change the gloves here in a minute. It's easier just to change them than trying to clean them. Let's see. Get her little ratchet out. Get her torque wrench, I mean. Yeah. Got to torque these bad boys 20 foot-pounds. Yep. And I think we're already lined up, actually. Right there, I think that little bit of tightening on that bolt lined us up. We're fixing to see. Pulled the cam to us some. Notice that. I'll check alignment. Let's look at her lines. Oh yeah, her dots are almost exactly dead on. They're still slightly out of whack, but they should. Those are tight. Should be perfectly fine. They're. I don't think that that's a problem. They are very, very, very close to each other. Of course, this engine's not sitting exactly level on the stand, and this may not be exactly straight up either. It's slightly off. Let me turn it. I don't like the look of it, my friends. It's dead on. I'll show you here in just a second. It's dead on, but it's not. They're lined up real good, but they're not exactly perfect. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn that. To wipe my hands off again. My old brake clean rag that I left for a special occasion. We are going to turn the crankshaft just a hair and see what happens here. And it should come right in. Ah, phooey, too far. Can't back it off that way. Get lined up, you'll have to take my word for it. Get my pry bar. You turn it back. See if I can get under a lobe of crank. Right here, Ken. Turn it back. There we go. Probably turned it too far, but still close enough for me to line this up and show you. That's the whole point. It's just the fact you're dealing with an engine that's still. Oh man, it's dead on that. But I keep passing it every time. It's just, I'm dealing with an engine that still has spark plugs in it. It's better for the engine to sit with the spark plugs in it. Good on your torque wrench, ain't it? Where'd my socket go? Oh, there it is. Let's see if we can bring this in now. Right there. Yeah, it was slightly off. Let me wipe my hands off. I can grab my camera and I'll show you. It's slightly off. That's why it was confusing me. That's why I kept looking at it. But I'll show you what it was. Alright. Right here, as you can see, your dot, which is actually right there, it's a little hard to see, a little faint. You see it now? Your dot and your dot, perfectly lined up. What I was noticing is this one was setting just a little bit this way, and this one was setting a little bit this way. Well, it wasn't quite exactly in place, and that was just from fooling with it. But we got it in place. And as you can tell from before, Look at this chain. It's tight. This engine will run better than it did with this new chain in it. So anyway, let's get on with putting some more crap on. Okay, now we're going to put the timing chain cover on. Lessons in silicone, okay? Silicone sealer is messier than hell, for one. Good lesson. I've actually got a good coat of silicone on this, just because I know it's been off at least a couple times. This is a thin coat. This is as thin as I could rub it out, okay? Notice the block. Very thin. You also notice that I ain't even got my gasket out of the pack yet. The only thing I did get out was this front seal. And you just take the old one out, which I'll show you how to get it out. There's a little hole right here. It's a weep drain bag. Stick you a Phillips head screwdriver, not a straight in there. You don't want to gouge anything. And hold it in your hand. Put your palm of your hand under the cover. And put it up against your chest. Take that screwdriver, stick it in this hole, and take a hammer and go whack, whack. It should fly out and land on the ground, which mine's laying down there. Then you flip this thing over, lay it on a good hard surface, and take a hammer and just tap, 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 tap. Or use a seal driver or a block of wood. I put them in with a hammer. Tap, 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 tap. They go in pretty easy. Velcro gasket set has a national branded seal. If I can find it on the seal to show you. National. Right there, I think you can read it. The number is a 3945. It's right there at the top somewhere. I can see it, but can't see it through the viewfinder. Whatever. Anyway, I've got that done. Next step's to wipe this blasted silicone off my hands. I hate silicone, okay? I despise the shit. And, you know, they say that you can put Velcro gaskets on without using it. Different things. You know, a rubber gasket. Yeah, I agree with that. Paper gasket, I'm putting a little sealer on it. I'm not getting carried away, I'm putting a little. Velcro actually, with like their oil pan set and stuff, and different ones, they actually give you different gaskets. They come with a little tube of sealer. Here's my new Velcro gasket. As far as, somebody's gonna ask this question, you got stripes on one side, the other side you don't. Which side goes to the block? If you're gonna get that darn picky, you ain't got no business working on a car. But anyway, back to our block, okay? You got your dowel pins here. One of these I accidentally pushed in. We ain't going into how I did that. It was during my removal process. I actually thought, well, heck, let's try something. It didn't work so well. It's still sticking out enough to function. It's good enough. I'm not worried about it. And I'm gonna stick this down good to the block. Silicone needs a little bit of skim time. Just a little bit of time to open air before you put it together. It seals a whole lot better. But there we go. We've got our timing chain on. Yeah, listen at me. We've got our gasket on for a timing chain cover. Another thing you do need to do, this needs to be greased right here. Right now is a good time to do it, even though it's a messy time to do it. You put some grease in it. Grease that seal good, because it has absolutely nothing to run on except for grease until it gets a little bit of engine oil. So, I don't know if you can see it, I'm probably out of camera frame, but I'm lubing up this seal that the harmonic balancer actually rides on copiously with excess grease that I'm going to have to remove from that anyway. We're just going to grease it up real good, and I'll grease up the balancer too. It's just a fact of I do not want to revisit this front seal over stupidity. So we're going to grease it now, and if I forget to grease the darn balancer, we're still good, okay? Match your dowel pins up, there. That's what they're there for. This one over here actually helps align the timing tab. Makes it to where you can't put it on wrong, and that's what it does. We've got a neighbor that's drunk way too much beer, please ignore them. But anyway, the first thing you need to do is put these bolts back in this thing to hold it on, so it don't fall off on the ground. Okay, the drunks have went away, so now we're going to proceed back to what we was doing. I don't remember where I was at, but I also know that I took this back off and took a gander at something, because I couldn't remember. When you video stuff, sometimes when you're trying to video it to show somebody, you sometimes are more worried about making the video than what you're doing sometimes. So need to double check stuff. I couldn't remember if I actually made sure that I double checked all 3 of the bolts in the end of the cam gear. So I took his cover back off and checked those. They were tight. I did my job correctly. But it's one of those things you sit and think, did I do that? Did I do it? And I was thinking about it from the point that I got to right here putting bolts in. I'm like, did I do that? And when I got up here, I was almost ready to reach there and pick this timing tab up. I was like, dang it. Take it back off and look. Make sure we did it correctly. Because I couldn't remember. But no harm, no foul. No big deal. Cost me a couple minutes of work. Now these cover bolts right here torque somewhere around 10 foot-pounds. Don't torque very tightly. And they've got these little star washers on them. Double locking washers. They lock both sides. That's how they're designed. They lock against the cover and against the bolt. There's a different kind of lock washer. They're not a split spring type. But here's my timing tab, which could use a little cleaning, I guess. It's actually a chrome looking one, which don't make a whole lot of sense to me, but it's, see, like a chrome deal. I don't know, we'll give it a little squirt down, a little bath, and put it on there. I don't know how, why, or what, but it may just be that it's a possibility that one got lost during this engine redo. When this engine was out of the truck, that it got lost and somebody went and bought a universal one, like an aftermarket. It's a possibility. I don't know. It's going to be painted. I know that. So it doesn't have to be. Nah, it's just like an anodized coating. You can see it on this side. I'm not too worried about cleaning it exactly, cleaning it perfect. I'm not real worried about that. You're not going to see the back of it anyhow. But we're going to slap it in here. Bolts are in my hand. Brake cleaner is some wonderful stuff. Brake clean is my friend. And we are going to put the last bolt in here. Attempt to by fingers. The finger method. We're going to finger our big block here. Let's get that in there. There we go. We got it started. So now, wipe crap off hands. Get socket. We are going to use a little 1/4-inch drive ratchet to put this together. I think those are 7/16 if I remember right. Yes, they are. Use a little extension and a 1/4-inch drive ratchet. Because the reason we're going to use this 1/4-inch drive is because it's kind of hard to over torque something. Yep, put it together. It's kind of hard to over torque with a 1/4-inch drive ratchet, especially if you hold it like I am. And I know I'm over torquing them. 20 foot-pounds is, that's probably 20 foot-pounds, but we're going to torque them on up probably to 30. I don't know, something like that. You just don't want to distort the cover. It's just like valve cover gaskets. You don't want to squeeze the gasket out, but you don't want to leave it loose either. So we're just doing what we're doing. Not getting a torque wrench out for a blasted timing chain cover. Sorry. Just tighten them up good and snug and leave them. Of course, it's a 1/4-inch drive ratchet. It's a lot harder to over torque this stuff. If you torque these little bolts too much, you'll wring them right off in the block, and then you're in for some field day of taking it back apart. Been there, done that. We've all wrung a bolt or two off. You don't know how strong you are, and I'm bad about that. Don't like air tools as a rule. I use good old-fashioned grunt and power and tighten things up. And I tend to tighten things a little too tight. The closer in you hold this ratchet, as you can see, the closer in you hold it, the less torque you can actually exert. I could put a 6-foot pipe on this thing and be able to put some crazy torque on this. We don't want no crazy torque. Just want it good and snug. And as I go back over them a second time, I've noticed that the gasket has relieved some. And it's actually tightening a little more. So there we go. Cover's on. I guess the next step is to, one, I need to get this out of here. There. The engine didn't actually move that time. Still on the spring washer, lock washer, whatever you want to call it. There, I'm off of it. we'll get it off. Get it out of the way because the harmonic balancer will go on here after a while as soon as the oil pan goes on. Well, let's see what I've got to do. My next steps let's see which side you can actually see. I got to clean these rails up for my oil pan gasket and this, that, and the other. I'll get cleaned up and get my oil pan cleaned up, get the little buggies out of it and stuff where they're stuck on the anti-rust compound that's on it. We'll get all that stuff done and then I'll turn the camera back on.